We're coming off an explosive episode, and this week has no intention of slowing the momentum. Fitz is still on the run with Simmons and Daisy, but his plan of getting them all away in his spaceship is quickly derailed when said ship is destroyed by S.H.I.E.L.D's forces. Now they need to think up a new plan. The hero's advantage, however, comes from the fact that their main antagonists are more concerned with sniping at each other than pursuing them. S.H.I.E.L.D and his brother are not exactly a dream team. In fact, they appear to be almost complete opposites. While S.H.I.E.L.D is worried about his newfound scars disrupting his perfect image, his brother says they should be worn with honor, as the sign of a victor. But S.H.I.E.L.D isn't exactly the warrior type. Apparently, the whole reason he's running the Earth space station in the first place is because he once abandoned a strategic outpost his father had assigned him to defend. In S.H.I.E.L.D's defense, said defense was probably impossible, since most of his troops other than Sonara had been dead. But his brother argues that honor and glory are more important than mere survival. These two Kree really have the Boromir-Faramir brother dynamic down pat, except for the fact that neither of them seem to get their hands dirty. Both of them dispatch their top SOLRs, Sonara, and a Kree man who prefers using primitive weapons to his human prey to find the destroyer of worlds. They're not the only ones looking for someone. After much pursuit, Enoch finally tracks down May on the desolate Earth's surface. Roaches apparently pose no problem for him, since he doesn't have any tender insides for them to eat. But Enoch is not omnipotent. When hooded strangers suddenly appear and grapple him and May with chains, the two don't stand a chance. Eventually, the S.H.I.E.L.D agents are forced to tell Flint that Tess was dead by the Kree in pursuit of him. Mac talks to Flint one-on-one, but doesn't really have any comforting words. He just says that Flint's powers mean he has the responsibility to protect the people close to him. But Flint is doubtful. His parents are dead, and now his best friend is dead too. How is he supposed to protect anyone ultimately? This is a question Flint has to figure out himself. So when Mac and Coulson's group finally reconnects with Fitz, Simmons, Daisy, and Dickie, who broke himself out of the room, Coulson locked him in, just in time, too, because I was starting to miss his sass. Flint is nowhere to be found, blank. To quote a recent movie of note, Flint has the heart of a true Jedi. He goes straight to the Kree looking for him, and in an extremely Jedi-esque hooded cloak, to boot. Flint doesn't want anyone else to because of him, and appears to offer himself up to the Kree so they'll stop hurting his friends. But Flint's no fool. Once the main Kree's guard is down, the kid uses his newfound powers to fuse a few smaller rocks and send the combined projectile through the Kree's head. Man, that's a cool power. He's not the only one with SS, unfortunately. Sonara sneaks up behind him and knocks him out, and decides to use him as bait. But it doesn't take long before Daisy shows up, and she of course is just as much the self-sacrificing hero as Flint. She offers herself up to the Kree warriors in his place. But luckily her friends aren't far behind, and they all take off with the Kree in hot pursuit. Eventually, they find an open shaft that can lead them outside. Dickie comes up with the idea of using his anti-gravity belt buckle to create their own makeshift elevator, but of course no one trusts him enough to be the test dummy. Fitz and Simmons escape first, complete with on-brand nerdy dialogue once more onto the breach with others following behind. But Flint, for one, has no intention of leaving. If his powers are meant to protect people, then he's going to use them that way. He's not abandoning the people left in the station to be vulnerable to Kree cruelty because of him. Despite his often said no splitting up rule, Mac decides to stay behind and help the kid, along with Yo-Yo. So the episode ends without another big fight scene, but there's still plenty of intrigue in its stead. After breaking through into the empty room, Sonara uses her floating balls to the other Kree warrior. When she reports this back to the still bickering brothers, S.H.I.E.L.D takes advantage of his brother's shock and literally stabs him in the back. Of course his warrior brother calls him out on it, so S.H.I.E.L.D stabs in the front too. This earns Sonara's respect, and she smiles at him as he lays out his plan for bringing the Destroyer of Worlds back to his father, saying they got revenge for his brothers, and finally leaving this cursed exile. When May wakes up on Earth, we finally get a look at the community there. She realizes she's in the Zephyr, and then one of the figures takes off her hood. Her face isn't recognizable, but the carved robin in her hand sure is. Somehow, Fitz isn't the only one who made it to the future. That prophetic child Robin Hinton is here too, though she's definitely not a child anymore.